ओम अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमः ओं विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिन्निति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। In this session, we'll be discussing from the 17th and 18th verses of the 18th chapter of the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. To begin with, I will recite the 17th verse. Tanna param punyam asamvritartham आख्यानम अत्यद्भुत योगनिष्ठम आख्याहि अनंत आचरितोपपन्नम पारीक्षितम भागवताभिरामम. The meaning of this verse is, thus please narrate to us the narrations of the unlimited, for they are purifying and supreme. They were spoken to Maharaj Parikshit, and they are very dear to the pure devotees, being full of bhakti yoga. So the sages of Naimisharanya are requesting Suta Goswami speak about those topics discussed between Parikshit Maharaj and Shukadev Goswami. And what is the nature of those topics? They are purifying and supreme. They are very dear to pure devotees, these topics, because they are full of bhakti yoga. These topics are full of bhakti yoga. So Prabhupada explains in the purport, what was spoken to Maharaj Parikshit and what is very dear to the pure devotees is Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam is mainly full of the narrations of the activities of the Supreme Unlimited, and therefore it is a science of bhakti yoga, or the devotional service of the Lord. Thus it is para or supreme, because although it is enriched with all kind of knowledge and religion, it is specifically enriched with the devotional service of the Lord. That is a special characteristic of Bhagavatam. It contains transcendental knowledge. It contains topics of renunciation. It contains what is real religion, but most importantly, it contains devotional service of the Supreme Lord, Bhakti Yoga. It is enriched with Bhakti Yoga. The 18th verse, Suta Vacha, Aho vayam janma bhruto adyahasma vruddhanuvrityapi viloma jataha daushkulyam adhim vidhunoti shighram mahattamanam abhidhana yogaha. The meaning is, Sri Suta Goswami said, he is responding to whatever the sages of Naimisharanya said now. O God, although we are born in a mixed caste, we still promoted in birthright simply by serving and following the great who are advanced in knowledge. Even by conversing with such great souls, one can without delay cleanse oneself of all disqualifications resulting from lower births. So Suta Goswami is revealing some secret here, a very, very important secret. What is he telling? That he was born in a mixed caste, Viloma Jata. Viloma Jataha, born in a mixed caste. So Srila Prabhupada explains what is that born in a mixed caste. in the purport, Srila Prabhupada says, Suta Goswami did not take his birth in a Brahmana family. He was born in a family of mixed caste or an uncultured low family. So, Suta means somebody who is born in a uncultured low family is called a Suta. But because of higher association, like Sri Shukadev Goswami and the great sages of Naimisharanya, certainly the disqualification of inferior birth was washed off. There is a power of association. Higher association means all disqualifications are washed away. And it actually happened to Suta Goswami. So, Srila Prabhupada explains the principle that Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu followed this principle in pursuance of the Vedic usages. And by his transcendental association, he elevated many low-born or those disqualified by birth or action to the status of devotional service and established them in the position of acharyas or authorities. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu strictly followed this principle of the Bhagavatam. Just like Suta Goswami became qualified and he became cleansed of all disqualifications simply by associating with pure devotees. Same thing, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself gave association and he elevated those who were disqualified by birth or action to the status of devotional service. And when they become situated on this platform of pure devotional service, they become authorities. They attain the position of acharyas, those who can teach others by their own example. They are perfect in knowledge and realization. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu clearly stated, any man, whatever he may be, whether a Brahmana or a Shudra by birth, or a household or a mendicant in the order of society, if he is conversant with the signs of Krishna, he can be accepted as an acharya or guru, a spiritual master. The exact verses, Kiba Vipra Kiba Nyasi Shudra Kena Noy Ye Krishna Tattva Veta Say Guru Hoy. This is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's statement. This means, irrespective of the position, either in the Varna or the Ashrama. Varna positions, the highest is Brahmana, the lowest is Shudra. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it doesn't matter what the Varna position is of a person. Neither the Ashrama position, whether one is householder or mendicant in the order of society. That means whether one is grahastha or sannyasi, it doesn't matter. If he is conversant with the signs of Krishna, ye Krishna Tattva Veta, Krishna Tattva, in truth he knows what is Krishna, then he can be accepted as Acharya or Guru or a spiritual master. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu followed this very rigidly. This principle, he followed this principle. Now it is described here, Suta Goswami learned the signs of Krishna from great rishis and authorities like Shukadev and Vyasadeva, and he was so qualified that even the sages of Naimisharanya eagerly wanted to hear from him the signs of Krishna in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam. So Suta Goswami, by birth he was low-born, but he learned the signs of Krishna from Shukadev Goswami, from Vyasadeva, and in this way he became qualified. And how much qualified did he become? That even the sages of Naimisharanya, who were high-class Brahmanas, Ata Pumbir Dvija Shrestha, Suta Goswami himself addresses the sages of Naimisharanya. You are Dvijashrestha. You are high-class Brahmanas. Even such high-class Brahmanas, they are eager to hear from Suta Goswami about Krishna, because Suta Goswami knows and has realized the signs of Krishna. That's why he is in that exalted position of being the Acharya, to impart knowledge about Krishna. So Prabhupada says, Suta Goswami had the double association of great souls by hearing and preaching. He heard them when they made inquiries, and he answered their questions by which he was preaching to them also. Transcendental science, or the science of Krishna, has to be learned from the authorities, from somebody who is following these principles taught by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So, learning is not enough. One has to preach the science of Krishna consciousness, and then one becomes still more qualified. By learning, one acquires some qualification, and by preaching, one acquires a higher qualification. So, Suta Goswami had both the advantages, and thus undoubtedly he was completely freed from all disqualifications of low birth and mental agonies. So, Suta Goswami cannot be considered as low born. Those disadvantages are all cleansed away. This verse definitely proves that Srila Shukadev Goswami did not refuse to teach Suta Goswami about the transcendental science, nor did the sages of Naimisharanya refuse to hear lessons from Suta Goswami because of his inferior birth. See, both are there. Suta Goswami, though low born, Shukadev Goswami spoke Bhagavatam, and Suta Goswami heard and became enlightened, qualified. And the sages of Naimisharanya, even though they are high-class Brahmanas, they did not refuse to hear from Suta Goswami, because their only consideration was this Suta Goswami actually has heard about Krishna and knows Krishna. Therefore, let us hear from him. That was their only consideration. So Prabhupada says one important point. This means that thousands of years ago, there is no bar to learning or preaching the transcendental science because of inferior birth. Many times these ignorant people, they accuse that in the past, so-called Shudras were denied the knowledge of the Vedas. They were denied transcendental knowledge. No, that's never true. It was never true. As Prabhupada says, there was never any bar for learning or preaching the transcendental science because of low birth. The rigidity of the so-called caste system in Hindu society became prominent within only 100 years or so, when the number of Dvija Bandhus, or disqualified men in the families of higher castes, increased. Prabhupada is clearly pointing out, in the last 100 years or so, that is, if you count from now, when Prabhupada is writing the purport, he says, last 100 years this has become so. Vitiated caste system, Hindu caste system. But that was not the case before. So, how did this happen in the last 100 years or 150 years? Because the number of disqualified people taking birth in higher castes increased. And then such disqualified people, they don't have qualification. They claim, I am a Brahmana by birth. But without qualification, what is the use of such birth? It is useless. It is no good. So therefore, Prabhupada explains that birth is not important, but the qualification of the person after taking birth, whatever be the family, if they acquire the qualifications by proper hearing, then they are washed off all the contamination of the lower birth. So this is the conclusion, that more important than birth is the association through which one actually becomes elevated, association of pure devotees, association of great acharyas, one becomes elevated, cleansed of all contamination, and one becomes qualified to speak such transcendental subject matter to others who may not be conversant with it. I'll stop here. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.